Hey there, it's Seth Borko, the head of Skift Research, and I've got a brand new report that I want to share with you today. It's called our State of Travel 2024 report. It's perhaps the single most comprehensive report we do every year, and the best part, it's free to download right now. We have 350 plus insights in this report with pretty much a chart for basically any sector. Do you need a chart on hotels? We've got that. A chart on airlines? We've got it. A chart on consumer behavior? Guess what? We've got that too. I really appreciate if you check out our State of Travel report. You can download it now by going to skift.com/state of travel with dashes between every word. So that's skift.com/state-of-travel. Download the report, check it out, and let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Skift India Travel Podcast, where we dive into some fascinating developments in the travel and hospitality sectors. Today, again, I have with me my colleague Bulbul Dhawan, who's here for a recap of the month that was. We'll be covering the big news coming out of the Indian travel and tourism industry. So, Bulbul, let's jump right in.
Absolutely. It has been a very eventful last month for the Indian travel space. And especially this last week, we have had a major IPO, more visa updates, and now you're announcing a big acquisition. It has been very exciting to track. So, Peden, I think a good place to start would be with the largest ever IPO in the history of Indian hotels industry. Schloss Bangalore, the luxury hospitality group behind India's The Leela Palaces, has filed for a massive $599 million IPO. I think there's a lot to uncover there. Can you tell us more about this development?
Yeah, but of course, it is, it is a bold move. The Leela IPO is significant for the Indian hospitality industry, and especially at a time when demand for luxury travel is growing. So this could bring fresh investments to the premium segment. Now, the Leela has said that it plans to use a significant portion of the proceeds to reduce its debt, which is a critical strategy. Because the past financial challenges that it's had. The Brookfield's 2019 acquisition of some of the key assets of Leela was a lifeline for the brand. And since being acquired by Brookfield, Leela has been kind of working on a turnaround, building its brand and expanding into new segments. And now it talks about expanding into wildlife and heritage tourism. So, Leela has approximately about 3,300 plus keys, and it has about 12 operating hotels and it's present in about 10 Indian cities, popular cities, like Bangalore, Chennai, New Delhi, Udaipur, and then there's in Kerala, Leela Kovalam. And then it also owns that one franchise hotel, which is Leela Bombay, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The DRHP, the prospectus reveals plans to expand by adding 8 more hotels with, roughly about 833 keys by 2028.
Mm-hmm.
And the growth pipeline also includes ventures into new segments, like I mentioned before, wildlife, heritage tourism, and then they've got properties planned near, Ranthambore and Bandhavgarh national parks, which those tiger reserves. And the expansion into these destinations like Ranthambore, Bandhavgarh, also kind of aligns with the broader trends that we are witnessing in India in experiential luxury tourism. Because these are these high demand areas that offer kind of unique, immersive experiences to travelers.
Mm-hmm.
And most interestingly, the IPO also puts Leela in direct competition with brands like Taj parent Indian Hotels Company, Oberoi Hotels, and Park, which recently launched an IPO. It is an increasingly crowded market for hospitality because hospitality companies are going public. So it's clear that there is fierce competition among them for investor attention.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's significant is that it also marks a shift in India's luxury tourism landscape.
Mm-hmm.
the IPO, along with the expansion plans, of course, like I said, indicates a push towards experiential travel, which could kind of reshape how premium tourism is looked at in India. And let's not also
Hmm.
forget that global hotel chains are also increasingly focused on India, betting on the
Yeah.
country's, the rising affluence, disposable income, and the surge in travel demand. Uh,
Yeah.
I think one of your India reports, you had mentioned that in 2023 the Indian hospitality industry attracted about 401 million in investments, which is nearly
Yeah.
four times the transaction volume of 2022.
Yep.
Also, in the first quarter of 2024, the hotel transaction volumes went up to 78
Hmm.
million. I think it was a surge of about, uh, you know, 80% compared
Yeah.
to the same period in 2023. So all these things together, make it an ideal, kind of moment for Leela to launch an IPO. And it says a lot about how luxury tourism is being looked at in India.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. Because if we look at some of the recent IPOs in the broader travel space, they've done tremendously well. So it would be interesting to see what Leela does with its IPO. Let's
Mhm.
also move on to the next very interesting topic, which is visas. We have seen easier visa restrictions one after the other, with South Africa being the latest one. Can you discuss how the relaxed visa rules are opening up the world for tourism? And if you could also shed some light on the new relaxations by South Africa, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like you and I, we worked on a visa
Mm-hmm.
feature recently, which was published last week. And
Yeah.
we know that visa reforms are making a huge difference. Now,
Mm.
if I say that, the world is opening up, it might not be a completely correct statement, because there are still some regions that still face difficulties. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about uh, tourism source markets like
Hmm.
India and China. Earlier it
Yeah.
was it was very difficult even with an Indian passport to travel anywhere. But
Yeah.
now we see that the border rules are getting, there's so many countries that give you a visa free entry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Indian passport holders, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and of course, these are making a huge difference. And South Africa is a prime example, because it's starting something called the Trusted Tour Operator Scheme, which is which is ideally designed to attract tourists from India and China, which is, of course, two of the fastest growing outbound markets. And then South Africa is also talking about a 90-day visa waiver, and is also increasingly focusing on smaller Indian cities, to boost its tourism. uh, South Africa has suffered for a long time with restrictive visa processes, because it's got huge tourism ambitions, but the visa processes have not been as simple as travelers would have wanted. Chinese travelers, for instance, made about 100 million outbound trips in 2023, but managed to capture only a fraction of the market. I mean, like fraction, but I mean, like just about 93,000. Indian tourists, although more frequent, account for just about 4% of all international travels to South Africa. And
Mm-hmm.
for Chinese, that number is less than 2%. They want to tap into these two huge outbound markets. And they've also recognized, and especially for India, they've also recognized the untapped potential of these tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which are full of eager travelers that are looking for unique experiences. Now
Mm-hmm.
the tour operator scheme is very similar to South Africa's trusted employer scheme, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to expedite group visa applications and kind of simplify the process. And if
Hmm.
the country moves ahead with the fully digital visa processing, it will be a game changer for, of course, its tourism economy. So, visa reforms like those in South Africa are opening up travel opportunities for emerging markets. And as these processes become more streamlined, countries will be better positioned to capture the attention of a growing number of tourists from India and China. Like we've seen
Mhm.
what happened to tourism in Thailand, tourism in Sri Lanka, Malaysia, when they, opened visa-free access.
And then, in another big news, Oyo has agreed to acquire the Motel 6 and Studio 6 hotel brands from Blackstone for $525 million in an all cash deal. This is Oyo's second attempt to expand in the US market. Can you tell me more about what this means for Oyo and why it matters?
Yeah, I think Oyo has been it's an India-based, it's a hotel giant, and this acquisition is critical for Oyo's US expansion. Motel 6 is a well-known brand. It's got about 15. It's spread across 1,500 locations across the US and Canada. So this deal instantly gives Oyo a larger footprint in North America. Oyo currently operates about 320 hotels across 35 US states. So this focus has long been on gaining traction in the US, and
Mm-hmm.
buying a network like Motel 6 allows it to scale up rapidly. And it's also a part of Oyo's ongoing efforts to go public in India. We know that Oyo's filed its DRHP twice.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of helps the Oyo 2.0 IPO plans, and of course improve its global presence. And Motel 6 has strong brand recognition, and combining that with the entrepreneurial spirit that Ritesh has, it creates a solid foundation for growth.
Hmm.
Now, the budget hotel market is looking at recovery with there is an unexpected tick in demand in 2025. And Oyo's acquisition of Motel 6 will be, strategic to dominate the budget hotel sector in North America.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it also helps Oyo position itself as a key player ahead of the IPO. Because earlier this year, Oyo withdrew its application for an IPO, which it had filed in March 2023. We've reported that a lot many times, and a
Yeah.
source familiar with Oyo's plans had told us that the company is close to completing a refinancing and expects to pursue an IPO after that. This was,
Yeah.
like I said, this was the second time, because it initially filed for an IPO in 2021 as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last month, Oyo raised about $175 million in a and in a down round, and it was primarily led by Ritesh's company in Singapore called Patient Capital.
Okay.
This filing has seen its this funding, sorry, has seen its valuation drop from what was a peak of 10 million in 2019 to 2.4 million. And
Yeah.
Oyo, during the filing of the funding, Oyo had said that it will be using the capital to support its continued growth and global expansion plans, and which is exactly what it has done with the acquisition of Motel 6, which
Yeah.
Are you tired of sifting through endless resumes looking for the perfect candidate to fill a leadership opening? Skift Executive Search can help. We have an insider view of the travel industry and can leverage both our expertise and connections to find your next rockstar hire. To learn more, visit skift.com/exec-search or email us at execsearch@skift.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see what Oyo does with this acquisition and how it, weaves into its broader plan whenever it decides to file for an IPO again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it gives it the scale to a market that North America is something that Oyo has been eyeing for a really long time. It has a solid vacation rental, with the two
Mm-hmm.
acquisitions that it did between last year and year before last. Oyo's got in Europe, it's got a solid vacation rental market. And now
Mm-hmm.
with this acquisition, I think if you want to scale up faster, an acquisition is the is the easiest way to do that.
Yeah. And on to the next news, which is aviation firm OAG's data has shown that more Indian passengers are now opting for direct flights to their destinations instead of connecting through a third place. In 2023, there was a significant decline in the number of passengers flying indirectly as compared to 2019. What do you think is driving this, and what do you make of it?
Uh, yeah, I mean, everybody would know that the increasing presence for direct flights is, it's largely driven by convenience. And of course, let's not forget the growing capacity of Indian carriers like Indigo and Air India.
Hmm.
These airlines have expanded the international routes, offering travelers more direct connections, and if you remember Campbell Wilson, who's the CEO of Air India, who came for the Skift India Summit, had pointed out that avoiding long layovers makes direct flights much more appealing to passengers. And
Mm-hmm.
this trend is also kind of reshaping India's bilateral aviation agreements with countries like the UAE. These countries have
Hmm.
always wanted a larger share. The Emirates CEO has talked about wanting more capacity from India, and there are other airlines, Middle Eastern airlines, Turkish, Jazeera. They have all
Hmm.
wanted more capacity flying in and out of India. And recently,
Yeah.
if you, I mean, like, I think you have, I think it was in the India report that you mentioned that Indian carriers accounted for more than
Yeah.
45% of the international traffic to and from the country. And
Yeah.
this was for the April to June quarter. Now, on the contrary, the share of Middle Eastern carriers in international traffic to and from India was lower than pre-COVID levels for airlines like Oman Air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was a May report by the credit rating agency CRISIL that pointed
Hmm.
out that Indian Airlines will account for half of the country's international passenger traffic by fiscal 2028. I think right now
Hmm.
it's roughly about 43%. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
about
the
that.
agency had said that the growth is being led by a noticeable shift in spending patterns post COVID.
Yeah.
And then, of what we mentioned earlier, the visa requirements easing, growing number of airports, and of course, enhanced air travel connectivity are also boosting international travel.
Hmm.
Now, as Indian Airlines account for a growing share of international traffic, they are gaining leverage. But let's not forget that Middle Eastern and European carriers are keen on maintaining their dominance. So
Yeah.
we will see more competition in this space. The Indian travelers' shift to direct flights may be reshaping the aviation landscape and forcing airlines to adapt their strategies. But competition is also heating up because if you see, the Middle Eastern carriers offer these fantastic stopover visa, stopover
Mm-hmm.
program for free visas. I went to Europe in May and I flew Etihad, and I availed the Etihad, the free flight that they offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember, but it was not a large amount for the visa as well.
Yeah.
So so I'm getting free stay, I'm easily getting a visa. So if I'm going on a holiday to see a certain place, why would I miss that opportunity to see another place for practically
Yeah.
nothing, right? I mean,
Yeah. I think a
as
similar thing is
Indians.
also being offered by Saudi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Saudi also offers it. Saudi Airlines offers it.
Mm-hmm.
Recently when I flew to New York for the Skiff Global Forum,
Mm-hmm.
I made a similar offer. I saw that the layover I had about a 20-hour layover, so I availed the Qatar stopover visa program, in
Mm-hmm.
which was I don't really remember, but it was less than $20 for a hotel,
Yeah.
and and it was a Hilton,
Wow.
and less than $20 for it, and and then free visa.
Free visa.
So
And
yeah,
I think ethics. Middle Eastern carriers have done things like that. I think it is Etihad which has made, like, I think Etihad or Emirates, either of these two, that allow you to go through customs for the US in Dubai itself.
It's Etihad. Etihad.
Etihad.
Etihad allows,
And
yeah, you can clear
yeah,
immigration while in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
And of course, even Turkish is offering something like this, the stopover visa program, wherein you get to experience the destination. You get about I'm not too sure whether you get a maximum of 3 nights, but
Okay.
that. And and they have free breakfast, and then they offer this stopover. And this is and for Indians who are always looking at value. uh,
Maximizing
yeah,
the
yeah,
value.
exactly. So this is fantastic, right? I mean, like,
Hmm.
if I'm going to New York, then why will I not miss the opportunity to see Qatar? So,
Yeah.
I think people will avail that. But of course, like, but people who are going on business, who have a very tight schedule, may not be able to do that. But leisure travelers would want to avail something like this. So we will see competition in this segment. And I think the ultimate, the people who ultimately benefit the most is the consumer, because they'll have more options, and of course better connectivity as well.
Yeah, and I think Indian Airlines would have to really up their game to be able to compete for leisure travelers possibly. And then we have a new
Correct.
report by payment network Collinson International, which has shown that millennials in India are spending the most on travel as compared to other generations. In fact, it is spending about double that spent by Gen X, which is a distant second in terms of spending on travel. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think as there is more disposable income coming in, we see that it's very our philosophy is very different from the philosophy of our parents' generation, because
Hmm.
if you look at it in India, it was during our parents' time, it was more about save.
Yeah,
So here we will save, but we will also spend.
yeah.
So it was for our parents, it was about save, 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 and then buy a house, buy a car. But I think now we are prioritizing millennials are prioritizing experiences over material goods.
Yeah.
And and in all this, travel is a top category for them, and they're
Hmm.
willing to spend on experiences that are unique and memorable. And and they're also very savvy when it comes to credit card rewards and travel perks. We all know, and that's how we've seen the growth of these co-branded credit cards coming in, whether it is airlines coming in, whether it is your Flipkarts and your Amazon coming with co-branded credit cards. So everybody understands that people, the credit card rewards is something that's very lucrative.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Collinson report only that said that millennials spend an average of about $6,000 annually on travel,
Hmm.
compared to Gen X, who spend about $3,000. So
Yeah.
it's double of what the Gen X spends.
Hmm.
So and like I said, they're not just traveling more, they're also actively seeking value through these loyalty programs and benefits, like lounge access, travel insurance. So
Hmm.
and let's not forget that Indian millennials are also driving the country's travel economy,
Yeah.
and their focus is on experience led travel. So you know it kind of highlights the importance of catering to this generation, whether it's millennials or Gen Z, with offerings that combine value,
Hmm.
convenience, and of
Hmm.
course memorable experience as well. And we've talked about the growing middle class, we've talked about how Indians with disposable income want to travel more. So this entire surge that we see in outbound travel or domestic travel is been driven to a large extent by millennials and Gen Z.
I think these are all the questions that I had for you this week, Peden. Um, Thank you so much for answering them so patiently.
Thank you, Bulbul. I think yes, like you rightly mentioned, we've covered a lot of ground, from IPOs to visa reforms, and of course, let's not forget the rise of millennials and Gen Z in the travel sector. And these trends are kind of reshaping the travel landscape in our country, and it's clear that both consumers and businesses need to kind of stay agile to keep up. Thank you, Bulbul, for joining us today. And with this, we wrap up today's episode. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And be sure to tune in next time, where we'll dive into more insights from the world of travel and hospitality. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave a positive review. Your support helps us spread the word about the Skift India Travel Podcast and ensures we can keep bringing you free content every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever a new video drops. Thank you for your support.